Wake 'em up! Hi, how's it going? It's me, Julio, and I got my wife with me,
Percy.
So we want to really go over our testimony on how we met. You know, right now we're in 8 years of marriage, and marriage has great times, good times, and also bad times and hard times. So we want, we made a video about that too. You could go to that. We went over some deep issues of what we had, from pornography, from depression, even words of divorce being in there. So now we want to go about how we met, about 2011, that's when I accepted Christ. And in there, I felt God really changed me. And I'm not going to go into that testimony, but God changed me. And then in those 2 years, I was waiting for a wife. And while I was waiting for a wife, also on and off, I did have some issues with pornography as well. But the amazing thing was, at this point, I was resisting, where before I wouldn't, so God was showing me and showing me how to get victory over that, little by little. And then another thing is, I was waiting to have sex until I was married, which was different as well. So really, God was working in my mind, He was working in my heart. And so as I'm waiting, I felt God calling me. I told God, I prayed, and I said, I want to be married. I want to be married to to a woman. And I would say things like that, and I felt like, okay, I'm gonna do this for real. I'm gonna do this God's way instead of my way, because I've always messed up in my own way. So that's what happened around 2011. 2012 came about, and at 2012, another thing is, at 2011, I felt God was calling me to get married 2013. And so by 2012, by the end of the year, it's like, whoa, man, I don't, there's no one around. What's going on? I really felt God was saying, okay, you're going to be married by this year. I believe in prophetic word and stuff like that. And so God used different people to talk to me about that as well. So it was funny, interesting, because in 2012, I seen Percy a couple times. One of them was at church, at Hope Christian Fellowship, and that's our home church now. And she went, it was like a healing conference, and she wasn't serving the Lord at that point. You want to talk about anything of how you were at that time?
Well, during that time, I was going to hair school, and I had my son already, and my sister lived around, or she still lives around the corner from the church, and I was living in sin, but I hadn't given my life to the Lord yet at that time, but He was working in my life. He used a girl during hair school to talk to me a little bit about God and to invite me to a church, not the church that we're currently going to. And at that church service, one of the times that I went, the pastor spoke about the legacy that you're leaving for your child. And at the moment, I was dating a guy that was selling drugs, trying to grow it. Not the kind of man that I wanted my son to be, yet that's what I was exposing him to. And so at that time, that's when God really started ministering to my heart about changing my ways. So during that time, I was smoking weed. I was in fornication, having sex before marriage. I was with a boyfriend for a couple of years. And I just was living my life for myself. And so fast forward to this Friday night healing, I wasn't saved. I went to the church. My sister invited me. We just walked over. We went to the church, and God didn't use anything during that preaching, but He did call me back to that church because I had met the pastor for the first time. That first time that I had visited the church, which was something huge to me, because that doesn't usually typically happen. So that kind of pulled me in. And then shortly after, I started visiting the church and got saved September 9th, 2012. So we met, I think it was July, very first time. So immediately after I got saved, I started attending the church, and those were where we started to meet, because he started coming to Hope Christian Fellowship during different things. So he went to a football game. So we seen each other there. You want to tell them what happened at that time?
So the neutral friend I had there was Pastor Luis Diaz from Theology in the Streets. And there was a time where they would do football. They'll watch football at their cafe. and stuff like that. And I remember, I seen Percy. Now this is the second time. The first time I thought when I seen her, hey, she's a good looking woman, but as I heard little bits and pieces, like heard her talking, it didn't seem like she was following the Lord. So I was like, no, I need a woman who's following the Lord. I can't go back to the things the way I used to do it. So long story short, the second time at the football game thing, I noticed a difference in Percy. I noticed that she was actually serving the Lord. I could tell by her speech. I could tell by what she was saying. And so we were watching football, and we were next to each other. And as we're doing that, I looked at her, I said, one day God's gonna give you a good husband, and he's gonna be there to take care of you and your son. Because at the time she had a son too, and he was 5 years old, Kalan.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to the football, one, because I like it, and then another reason was because I had a son, so I wanted him to be around. At that time, since I didn't have a boyfriend or anything, I was trying to live for the Lord. I wanted him to at least see men, role models that were living for Christ.
So that was the ironic part that I said, one day God will give you a good husband. At that point, I didn't know she was my wife or anything like that.
And I didn't know either.
And she didn't know, yeah, so that's what happened then. Fast forward to 2013 a little bit now. By January, we went on a there was a singles outing, a singles meeting, and even before I mentioned this is another thing that only a few people know about this part. So before that singles outing, I actually went on a date about a week before, and it was a woman from my job. And a long story short, one of my coworkers was trying to playing Cupid or matchmaker or whatever. So she's like, look, this woman's working a job. She believes in God, all these things. And long story short, we did go out, and I was seeing what everything was about. A long story short, I came out very, very disappointed. The woman didn't believe in going to church. It's like, yeah, she believed in God, but not really solid in Jesus Christ, which is essential to me. That's crucial. And then some other components. The thing that I really did was really minister to her more than anything in that. But I remember going to my room in my apartment, and I just honestly, I wanted my wife, that God had for me. I didn't want to waste time or play games. I just want to be committed to one woman. So anyway, I prayed and I said, Lord, I don't want to play games. Bring the woman you have for me. I don't want to waste time, stuff like that. And so now after that, a week later, this is where we go to this singles outing. And I'm like, man, this is weird. I don't want to go to something like this. But I felt something saying, yo, go, check it out. So everybody in the singles ministry, you never know. You never know what's going on, what God is doing. So God bless you guys there in the singles ministry. So anyway, you want to talk about that? The singles outing?
Yes, but I want to backtrack a little bit. So while he's praying for a wife more consistently, I had already been married before. So I got to a place in my walk with the Lord, which I was still a baby Christian, but I was so I had the zeal for the Lord that I just wanted to do his will. And I remember praying one time for a husband, and really I was praying for my son to have a man that he could look up to, someone that would be in his life and kind of mentor him, because at that point I had gotten to the place where I was okay just it being my son and myself and the Lord. I was okay with that. And when I came to that surrender, I feel like God used that in my life, because prior to that, my history would show that it's almost like I depended on having someone. So I always had a boyfriend. So yeah, I would break up with one boyfriend, but then a couple months later, I would have another boyfriend, and we'd be together for a couple years. And so I never got to a place in my life where I could not have a man in my life until the time that I had the Lord in my life, and he fulfilled that need that I needed during that time.